Alrighty, so if you thought that goal scoring was going to be down this week after the All-Star break, because, you know, defense, they definitely went AWOL during the time before the All-Star break and want to take an early All-Star vacation, oh, you'll be wrong, because it turns out the defense decided that they're going to take an extended All-Star break. They're not just going to check out early when the All-Star break has happened. They're also going to not show up again even after the All-Star break, because for the second consecutive week, we saw a lot of goals that was scored in these games. In fact, 51 goals in these 12 games that happened on Saturday, which is the second highest amount of goals scored in a single day MLS. After last week, we had 57 goals that is scored. But we start off with the first game between the New York Red Bulls versus Orlando City. And unlike on what happened last week, where there was actually one game that finished 0-0, there wasn't any of these games that actually finished 0-0. Though this one, between the Red Bulls versus Orlando, I feel like this was a game where it was a very typical Orlando City road games, where they score an early goal, and then they kind of just packed it in for the whole game and hope for the best, and it worked out for them. And, you know, multiple time I said that when road team decided to do this, it does not work. But gotta credit Orlando City, at least a couple of times that they've shown that just simply scoring early and just kind of bunker for the rest of the game will always work out. And, you know, they kind of desperately needed this win too, because, you know, this winless run that they were on was getting to a point where they were dropping out of the playoff position if they don't start getting a win, and they got a big win in this one against the New York Red Bulls. Now, early on, Morgan did blast it wide from the volley, as I thought the Red Bulls had all the possession early in this game. The shots were 2-0 through 12 minutes into this game, so it wasn't really a very fast start to this one, though it's kind of expected because, you know, Red Bulls game, especially at home, tends to get off to a bit of a slow start. But then in the 18th minute, Orlando takes the lead. It's Facundo Torres scoring from Urso and Pato to give Orlando a 1-0 lead, and I feel like Cornell should have done better here. I mean, he did get a hand to this one, but, you know, didn't do it strong enough to parry that one away. And the game, I thought, kind of changes, because early on it was kind of all Red Bulls, but Orlando was now the one that controlled the game. The Morgan had a half volley that just went high, and then in the 44th minute, Pato was stretcher off, and that maybe be the last time we could be seeing him in an Orlando City jersey, because the injury that he's suffered, you know, I don't know to extent how bad it is, but when you're stretcher off like that, yeah, most likely it could be a long-term injury. And that, you know, Pato, we talked about, he is probably the most cursed player in terms of injury, not only in MLS, but in the world in general. Like, if there is a guy that it has suffered so many injuries throughout their career and has really kind of dampened their career because of it, it's got to be Alexandre Pato. And again, it seems like this could be the last time we could see him in an Orlando City jersey, and it kind of sucks that the fact that his injury problem that he's been having in his whole career kind of happened again when he was with Orlando City. You know, he missed a lot of games last season, and now it feels like he could be done for the season. Smith then almost scored an own goal, but fortunately, that the shot that he, of course, redirect toward his own net goes wide there, as we head to halftime with Orlando holding on to a 1-0 lead. Now in the second half, Amaya puts one right to Galese before Klemila fires it wide from long range, as the Red Bulls were pushing early for an equalizer, and the bunker has begun for Orlando as they drop in a deep shell. In fact, I wouldn't say that the bunker kind of started during that point. They kind of started right around the end of the first half, and this is when you know that, you know, if you're Orlando City and if you're certainly a fan of the team, you know it's time to hold your breath, because there's been so many times they've been trying to do that, and it's been kind of mixed result. There's times where they're able to hold on, and then there's times where they weren't able to hold on because of them just simply decided to sit in a bunker shape and hold on to a 1-0 lead for the remaining of the game. And for this time, it looked like it worked, because the Red Bulls were finding no space to operate. And one of the things that the Red Bulls, I think, struggled this season is having possession, of course, trying to break teams down. And in this game, you know, they definitely had some possession, especially in the second half. And it's not a big surprise that when they struggled to break teams down in Orlando City in a low block, yeah, the Red Bulls had no answer trying to break down the low block. In fact, they look very slow and stale whenever they go to Orlando's final third. Harper then hits it wide off the mark before Luquinhas blasts one into the stands. And then in the 5th minute of stoppage time for Hernandez trying to get a late equalizer for the Red Bulls, but he blasted high from long range, which kind of sums up the Red Bulls night. It's been a very frustrating night on the attacking end for the hosts. Though in the 5th minute of stoppage time, or in the 6th minute of stoppage time, Orlando almost made a huge mistake. There was a miscommunication between the back line and Galese, and as the ball was kind of coming, Galese kind of missed it as he was hoping maybe the Orlando backline was going to clear that one away, and Morgan pounced on it. But unfortunately, as he was trying to get it into the empty net, it was somehow clear off the line for Orlando City. I think it was Janssen the one that cleared off the line, but either way, that would have really sucked for Orlando City to concede a goal, especially how well they defend for the entire game, and they just concede a gift like that in the 96th minute of the game. But in the end, Orlando, of course, win 1-0 in this game. And to just show you why this is a classic Orlando City game, they only had 2 shots in this game. That has to be one of the fewest amount of shots, if not the fewest shots you're able to win an MLS game. I mean, I know I talk about RSL getting no shots in the entire game and still were able to win on a PK shootout. But in terms of regular time, I think that's got to be right there in terms of the record for the fewest amount of shot. Like, I don't know how you would have 2 shots and you're still able to win the game. And in some way, you could say that this kind of stats is a classic FIFA kind of meme about how, you know, when your opponent scored the only goal despite you dominate for most of the game and yet you still lose 1-0. Though, when you look at the shots on goal, it tells the story. Only 1 shot on goal compared to the one that Orlando City has, which they score. So for the Red Bulls, despite they had a lot of shots in this one, none of them really tested Galese, and that is just kind of a telling sign that they were basically shooting from everywhere. That wasn't even came close from net. 11 shots off target compared to none that Orlando has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to the 1 that Orlando has. And possession-wise, 55% possession compared to the 45% possession that the Red Bulls had. And the Red Bulls struggle at home continues. I mean, this season, it's hard to believe they only won 3 games so far at home. And while this has been a very good road team, the home form has really kind of let them down. Though, again, you know, if the Red Bulls maybe slide down to like 5th or 6th place in the standings, I think they wouldn't mind, because, you know, they're so good on the road and they feel more comfortable playing on the road. And it has to be the style that they play. A team that doesn't like to have possession and like to transition, that's a perfect way to play on the road. And that, I think that maybe is the reason why they have struggled a lot at home, because at home most team likes to just kind of dictate plays, and that's just not how the Red Bulls like to operate this season. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next game is Cincinnati versus Atlanta, and this was a wild game. I mean, this was a game where there was definitely a lot of momentum switches, and it looked like early on Atlanta was going to really be on not only on the front foot, but really kind of run away with this game, because early on they had an earlier chance when Hernandez blasted high from close range before Almada struck the post from 20 yards out. Then Salentano denied Hernandez in the 9th minute, and Atlanta just shut out of the cannon early in this game. Like, with how FC Cincinnati played in the last game, you know, as great as they did against the Union, you know, one thing I was also going to say in the preview is there going to be a letdown? And boy, it looked like early there was a huge letdown, because Atlanta was just running riot. It looked like they had something to prove in terms of getting a win to really push themselves above the red line. Though Rios Novos did have to make a save to deny Brenner, as Cincinnati almost scored against the run of play. But then in the 17th minute, Amada would score from Araujo to give Atlanta a deserved 1-0 lead. And not only a deserved lead, but maybe a goal of the week contention. I can't believe that last week, in terms of the goal of the week, I think Gareth Bale, of course, won the goal of the week. And while Bale goal was good against RSL, I was kind of a little bit surprised that that one, of course, won it. And maybe that just tells you that LAFC fans definitely are now more powerful in terms of stuffing the votes, since, you know, the goal of the week kind of contingent. It seems like Atlanta fans have always do that, and that seems like maybe they're starting to getting kind of outvoted by even some of the bigger fan base like LAFC. But there's no doubt that Atlanta fans are going to stuff the votes again, and because this was just an absolute golazo from Thiago Amada. The fact that he hit that one first time into the upper 90, that is just incredible. Like, no goalkeeper in the world is going to save that. And yeah, that gives the visitor a 1-0 lead. We're looking to try to get a penalty then a couple of minutes later to go up 2-0, but it was not given after they were shouting for one. Then Moreno almost made it 2-0, but the post denied Atlanta for them the second time from long range. And then Rios Novos denied Brenner from close range. And I thought despite, Atlanta was dominating in this game, they simply cannot be complacent, especially on the defensive end. Because there's been times where they look a little bit shaky on the defensive end. And Cincinnati could definitely throw a sucker punch to this Atlanta team. And they did exactly that. Because in the 30th minute, who else? Brendan Vasquez scoring from Wabaldo to tie the game up at 1 apiece, because Brendan Vasquez is just red hot right now, and he's making his even a stronger case that he definitely deserved to be the number 9 in this U.S. men's national team heading into the World Cup in Qatar. Though I will also say that came from a bad turnover from Atlanta. Again, Atlanta defense, it was very shaky. They were being a little bit too casual, and yeah, they paid the price in terms of just turning the ball over badly in their own half. And then Vasquez almost had a second goal here as his shot is deflected high. I mean, the momentum just completely changed to Cincinnati. Like, after just such a bright start to this game, Atlanta momentum was completely gone after the equalizer. And you can say the same thing about the defense too, because the Atlanta defense just basically start to not show up whatsoever. And it cost them again in the 42nd minute as Brenner would score from Cameron to give Cincinnati a 2-1 lead. And again, another terrible set piece defending from Atlanta. I mean, the previous one on Vasquez shot, that was pretty bad, because the fact that shot able to get to Vasquez despite it gone through like 3 or 4 Atlanta defender, yeah, that shouldn't happen. And this is even worse with the way that they didn't clear their lines. And yeah, Brenner was on the end to give Cincinnati a 2-1 lead. Though it almost was tied up at 2 apiece when Salentano robbed Araujo from point blank. And at this point I said, yeah, it seems like both defense decided got AWOL in these last 5 minutes, and it feels like maybe we're in for another MLS after dark kind of moment in the end of the first half. But we do head to halftime with Cincy leading 2-1 over Atlanta. Now in the second half, Rios Novos would deny Barreal from long range before Araujo blasts one into the stands. Then Barreal hits one straight to Rios Novo, and I kind of feel like this game was on edge, because there was chances for both of these teams, and that both of these teams were looking to try to get the next crucial goal. Salentano would then tip Moreno's shot over before Rios Novo would rob Brenner on the header there. Both goalkeepers were very good in this one, despite the fact that both did give up 2 goals. Then there was a shout for a handball for Atlanta that was not given, but then in the 83rd minute, Andrew Gutman, for the second game in a row, scoring here from Martinez and Amada. And not only the fact that is a big equalizer for Atlanta, but that's a milestone mark in terms of the league history, because there's been many times I think I was watching these games, and a couple of the announcers for some of these games I was watching or mentioned who is going to be scoring the 20,000 goals ever in MLS history, and that honor belonged to Andrew Gutman. He scored the 20,000 MLS goal to be scored in league history, so congratulations for him to do so, but especially for Atlanta United, that was a huge moment for them to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and really that was kind of it, because despite the fact that I was hoping maybe both teams were trying to go for 3 points, it didn't really happen, as in the end it ends in a 2-2 draw. And the shots in this one, 19 shots for the 16 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots on goal for the 8 that Cincinnati has, 7 shots off target for the 5 that Cincinnati has, 6 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Cincinnati has, and possession-wise, 39% possession compared to 61% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. Or actually, I'm sorry, not Cincinnati, Atlanta United has in this one. Atlanta actually had more of the possession, and yeah, I think coming out of this game, I don't think either of these teams will be happy, because for Cincinnati, they're back drawing way too many games at home and dropping way too many points at home, especially giving up a late goal despite leading for most part of this game. And for Atlanta United, they'll be frustrated because, again, they just cannot find that consistency. I mean, they got that big win against Seattle. This was a big opportunity for them to carry that momentum, and for a while it looked like they did in the first 30 minutes of this game, and then their defense decided that they were not going to show up and decided to disappear. And yeah, they're gonna have to move on the next game and hope to get another 3 points to push themselves above the red line. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is New England versus DC United. So this was a game where for New England, they almost fall into that trap of what happened when you don't finish your chances, because they had a lot of chance in this game against DC, and while DC for most part wasn't threatening too much in this game, they did have some chances, and there was time where Petrovic did had to come up big with a save, which unsurprisingly he has, because I think you can safely say that, you know, even though I know New England fans will definitely miss Matt Turner. The amount of time that Petrovic has made some big save for this team, and almost kind of look like Matt Turner-esque in some way. I don't think Revs fan really missed that much in terms of the quality that Petrovic has compared to what Matt Turner has with this team. Now, early on, Petrovic did deny Revolve Morrison from long range, and I actually don't know why I wrote Morris there. His last name is not Morris, it's Morrison. But Rednick's then puts it wide from close range. Justin Rednick's getting a rare start for New England. He's another guy that I don't think anybody realized that, wait, is he still with the Revs? I mean, it feels like he just disappeared for the past couple of years. Yes, he's still with the Revs, even though he's been kind of buried under the depth chart, but gets a run in this game. Romo then pushed a dangerous cross away, as I thought Revs was pushing for the early lead, and they do get the early lead, as their captain, Carlos Gil, would score to give New England a 1-0 lead, and little did we know that would actually be the only goal that would be scored in this game. Though on the other end, Rodriguez blasted wide from long range before Durkin hits it high, as I thought DC kind of started getting a foothold into this game. I mean, it was once again a bit of a slow start for them in this one, but they started to get a foothold into this game, and this is where New England's got to be careful. Like, a 1-0 lead is not a big lead, especially from what we've seen in the past couple of weeks. And Gil, though, did have a chance to make it 2-0, and he actually went through on goal there and looked to try to chip it up, or trying to chip it over Romo, but actually no, I'm sorry. He was actually tripped up by Romo there, but nothing was given. I was actually thinking about another moment in another game that of course has happened. But yeah, you know, he was tripped up by Romo. Nothing was given. No penalty was called. Then Petrovic denied Kamara from close range in the 45th minute, as we head to halftime with the Revs leading 1-0. But you kind of sense that there are some nervy moments at Gillette Stadium, knowing that DC definitely had their fair amount of chances to get themselves back in the game. And I think that's what Bruce Arena told to this team, because in the second half, I thought they came out on the front foot, and they were looking to not only get that second goal, but really just kind of put this game away. And it looked like they did in the 56th minute, as Gil tried to score the second goal, but he puts it straight to Petrovic before Petrovic denied Paulson after the Revs basically cleared the ball right to him. Yeah, that was not a great moment for the Revs, and in some way they got away with one there where they just gave the ball right back to DC, and DC almost punished them there. And then in the 73rd minute, Gil actually went for a goal, and he actually rounded the keeper Romo, but somehow he struck the post as he was trying to casually tapped in. And when I saw that, I knew this could be if you're a Revs fan, this could be, you know the writings are kind of on the wall, because we've seen it so many times this season. When you only hold on to a 1-0 lead and you don't put away your chances, it's going to come back to haunt you. And I even wrote it. Will that big missed chance come back to haunt New England? And that's the one that they'll be thinking about if they drop points in this one. And in the 80th minute, it looked like Taxi Funtas was going to be the late hero for DC again. But Petrovic, again, making a big save here to deny him close range. And then Romo did deny Captoon in the 4th minute of stoppage time. But Gil did get a second effort on that save, which he puts that one high. But thankfully for New England, despite the numerous missed chances that they had to put this game to bed, they were still able to hold on to get a 1-0 win in this one. As the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 13 that DC had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC had, 7 shots off target compared to 9 that New England has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 4 that New England has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession in favor of DC United. And you know, the funny thing about New England in this game is that despite getting the 3 points, they somehow still are not above the red line, and that has to frustrate Revs fan, because I've mentioned so many times that, you know, they can keep winning, they'll eventually find themselves above the red line. And unfortunately, they kind of didn't get help in terms of this week. Well, I mean, in some way they kind of did get help in terms of the next game I'm going to talk about, but they kind of didn't get help in terms of some of the teams that is above them that also got a win. But hey, at least, you know, even though that is kind of frustrated that when you of course get a big win and then you don't really move anywhere because other team that you're fighting for those playoff position also won, at least you keep pace with them, because it could have been worse. It could have been them falling behind the pace and have to make up those points. But and yeah, you know, they can keep winning. Eventually those team above them will drop points and they can finally get themselves above the red line for the first time since probably, I believe June was the last time that they were above the red. They've been below the red line a lot this season. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Philly and the Chicago Fire. So there was no doubt the Union definitely came into this game angry after what happened in the last game, which was probably the worst game that Jim Curtin Union team have played against FC Cincinnati. Though in this game, I was also hoping maybe it was going to be pretty close because of the fact that the Chicago Fire, has been on fuego mode right now. No pun intended. But yeah, this game was kind of a huge reality check for the Chicago Fire, as the Union kind of showed why they are considered to be the team that maybe will be the one that make it out of the Eastern Conference and representing the East in MLS Cup, because they really ripped the Fire apart, especially in the second half. Now, early on, it was actually the Fire that actually got off to the better start. They had a lot of the possession, and the Union kind of surprisingly looking to drop back early at home. That's something that Jim Curtin does not do a lot when he play home games. So it was kind of surprised that of course is the way they set up, but nevertheless they did get the opening goal here in this game, and in the 15th minute, Daniel Gastak scoring from Carranza and Uru to give the Union a 1-0 lead. What a season it's been for Daniel Gastak. I believe that's now his 12th goal in a Union shirt. I mean, he has really been great for this Union team, and kind of unexpected too, because he's not really a number 9 or a winger. He's more of kind of a deep line midfield player, and yes, he's still able to hit double-digit mark. And I thought that kind of changed the circumstances, because it was now the Union the one that was controlling the plays and were looking for the second goal. Though Torres did puts it wide from close range before Shaqiri blasted high on the free kick. And Chicago, after they looked like they were second best after conceding the opening goal, they started to slowly get back into this game. But unfortunately, that came into a halt, because in the 30th minute, Jack Elliott would get the second goal for the Philadelphia Union, but in many ways, Slonina, they decided to go back to his June swoon kind of form, where, yeah, this was just a looping ball that Bizo basically hits it, and that's one that you expect Slonina should be able to catch it, and he simply dropped it. He dropped that catch there, which fell right into the path of Jack Elliott, and yeah, that is definitely one that Slonina would not want to look back. And it feels like this maybe is another point where when Slonina really struggled during the month of May and June, that was because of all the hype that was surrounded the fact that he could be the next goalkeeper for this U.S. men's national team. And then of course, just a couple of days ago, it was announced, well, not a couple of days, but a week or two ago, it was announced that he was going to be joining Chelsea at the end of the season for the Fire. And yeah, it feels like maybe that spotlight has started to get to him again, and it feels like once again that pressure started to get to him again. And I know some might write off Slonina because of that, but you gotta remember, he's still a young goalkeeper, and this is natural when you have a young goalkeeper like that. Whenever there's the spotlight and start pressure building on you, yeah, you're going to eventually make some mistake. But hopefully for Slonina's case, it's not going to get to him, because yeah, again, that was not a great moment for him, and a moment that will not make it his case of being the future U.S. men's national team #1 in this team. Now, we do head to the second half with the Union leading 2-0. In the second half, Jimenez did hit one straight to Blake, but then in the 49th minute, Chris Mueller scoring here from Shaqiri and Navarro to make it 2-1 in favor of the Fire. Another player that has been a huge for this Fire team. Chris Mueller, I mentioned it before, he's been a huge impact in this missing link of what has been a very struggling Fire attack throughout this season. And yeah, that goal of course got them back into the game. And just before I said maybe the Fire will have the momentum, Bizo looking to try to rescore that 2-goal lead for the Union, but he missed that one just wide. But Carranza does not, because he scored in the 54th minute to restore that 2-goal lead to make it 3-1. Then Elliott trying to make it 4-1 as he was going for his second goal, but he heads one high. And it just feels like the Union was just pushing for a fourth goal. And again, this is the thing about the Philadelphia Union. It's either feast or famine for this team on the attack. When the famine part is when they score a goal, but they can't can't really get that second in one, and then eventually they kind of stuck in one goal, and they kind of go through that drought period where they don't score a lot of goals. But there's also time when they can score a second or third goal. Yeah, watch out. This team is going to score 4, 5, 6, and even 7 at time, and it looked like it was the case in this game too. It looked like they could really run up the score in this one. Glasness trying to make it 4-1, but he puts it high from the back post. But in the 82nd minute, it was 4-1. It's Corey Burke scoring from Bizo and Gastak, and it could have been 5-1 just 5 minutes later when Burke probably should have made it 5-1, but he missed a free header in the back post, and you know, that's kind of classic Corey Burke, and probably the reason why he hasn't getting a lot of minutes for this Union team. But it's also safe to say that Chicago has completely checked out. Like, after that third goal, you can definitely sense that the heads drop for this team, and it's no surprise the Union just kind of run riot in the second half once again. And yeah, in the end, they get the 4-1 victory over the Chicago Fire, and also extending their lead in the Eastern Conference, because I'll talk about a certain team in New York also dropped points this week too. But the shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 13 that the Fire has. 5 shots on target, or 7 shots on goal for both of these teams. 5 shots off target for the 4 that the Fire has. 2 shots on block compared to the 5 that the Union has. And possession-wise, 57% possession compared to the 43% possession that the Philadelphia Union has in this game. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the next 4 games that happen in terms of the busy Saturday night action of match week number 25. So moving on, in the next game, we got Toronto versus the Portland Timbers, and this was not an easy win for TFC, because for the most part of this game, it looked like TFC were about to commit one of the worst sins in soccer, which is when you don't put away your chances, it's going to come back to haunt them, because for a long time, they struggled to get that first goal, which they eventually did, and then they were stuck at 1-0 for a very long time. And again, you know, when you're stuck at 1-0 and you don't get that second goal, how many times we've seen this week that many teams have paid the price, and they definitely paid the price in this one. But the only difference is, compared to other games, at least Toronto shows some fight, and especially it seems like those big money Italian kind of players that they bought in the names of Insigne and Benedeschi kind of bailed them out in this one. And in other words, basically high-end talent bailed out Toronto FC in this game. Now, in the first half, Insigne blast one right to Ivicic, and I thought, as expected, Toronto was on the front foot, and the Timbers were going with the bread and butter. They were trying to counter in this game, but little did we know that it wasn't really successful for majority of the game, because TFC knew what they were going to do, and they did a good job in terms of just making sure that when they lose the ball, Portland doesn't just immediately go on the other end and trying to counter. Though Ivicic did deny Bernadeschi from a close range before Nelson puts a weak shot straight to Petrovic. Osorio then blasted into the stands, and again, TFC, they had a lot of chances early in this game, but at least for the first 70 minutes of this game, that would be the storyline of this, where they had a lot of chances, but they just could not put one in past Ivicic goal. Insigne then struck the post on an Olympico attempt. I mean, you know, we've seen a couple of times where there's been some Olympico attempt that have came close, and this was probably the closest one. I mean, Insigne trying to curl that one into the top right from the corner spot, and it almost went in, but it struck the post. Though Ivicic then denied Jimenez, and this came after there was a shout for a penalty for TFC that was not given. Then Insigne got it all wrong from close range, and again, in this one, it was not a big surprise seeing guys like Lorenzo Insigne and Benedeschi really putting on a clinic, especially for Insigne too. Like, he was getting a lot of chances in this game, but again, will the lack of finishing come back to haunt Toronto? Because despite how dominant that they were in this first half, the scoreline was still scoreless. That all changed in the 41st minute when Jonathan Osorio would score from Richie Lorea to give TFC a well-deserved 1-0 lead, and you can definitely see there was a huge sigh of relief inside BMO Field. Like, that crowd was ready to erupt in terms of celebrating a goal with how dominant that they were, and they were able to finally do it in the 41st minute. And it could have been 2-0 if Ivicic didn't deny Insigne in this one. Ivicic had a really good game in this one, and in some way, he was probably the only reason why this game, well, besides him and also the lack of finishing from TFC, is the reason why this game stayed at 1-0 for a very long time. And in some way, there was time where he was just simply standing on his head to keep this Timber side in this game. And I even wrote that the Timbers, they were just hoping to get to halftime 1-0 down, as they just been completely outplayed in the first half. And whatever tactics that Giovanni Savarese come into this game did not work whatsoever. So we do head to halftime with TFC leading 1-0, and in the second half it was pretty much the same. Ivicic had an awkward kick save on Insigne's shot. I mean, it was kind of awkward because he didn't need to save that one with his feet, but he kind of did it so it was kind of unconventional. But Insigne then had a shot that was deflected wide, and Toronto again picked up where they started. They were looking to try to get that second goal. Although on the other end, Bono did deny Chara, as that was really Portland's first shot. So it took 58 minutes for the Timbers to finally getting their first shot. But like I said, that was a warning sign for TFC, because, you know, as dominant that they are, it's still only 1-0, and one mistake, all of a sudden this game could be tied up at 1 apiece. In the 60th minute, Insigne, I mean, I feel like I've said his name so many times because he had a lot of chances in this one, and it's hard to believe he actually only got on the score sheet once when he could have easily scored like 2 or 3 goals in this one. He puts it wide from close range in the 60th minute, and I feel like the longer this stays at 1-0, the more concerned TFC has to be, because it's not just the narrative of the fact that when you don't kill games off, we've seen so many times this season, it's going to come back to haunt you. But I'm also worried about this TFC defense, because this defense, for the most part, it's been pretty steady. But that's because, you know, Portland really hasn't tested this defense a lot because of them being very sloppy when they're trying to go on the transition. Aquinola then went through on goal, but he lost his composure in the final third, and then Ivicic denied Crescidos twice in that one. And at that point, I thought that was kind of a moment where I think maybe TFC is thinking, yeah, they're just snake bit. Like, the fact that Ivicic is able to make an incredible double save like that, it looked like that second goal wasn't going to happen, and it looked like it's also a moment where, yeah, you just kind of had a feeling that maybe the Timbers were going to get one back in this game to tie the game up, to really continue the narrative of what happened when you don't kill the game off. And it didn't take long for me to see that happen, because in the 73rd minute, Jose Van Rankin would score from Blanco and Chara to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and this was really one of the rare times the Timbers can actually counter with fruition, and TFC basically had no answer with that. Yeah, the game was tied up at 1 apiece. BMO Field was in stunned silence, although I feel like maybe some might have saw it coming, because again, you keep your opponent in this game despite you dominating them. Yeah, it's going to be a problem if you aren't able to put away that second goal and keep letting your opponent in this game. Though Benedeschi did try to retake the lead, but he blasted high, which kind of sums up TFC finishing. But then in the 79th minute, you know how I talk about Insigne has had a very frustrating night in terms of not converting his chances? He finally did here, as he scored here in the 79th minute to give TFC the lead again, and then it was almost 3-1 when Ivicic, you know, again, he's still standing on his head here, robbed Aquinola from point-blank range. But then in the 85th minute, Benedeschi basically calls a game, as he scored here from Richie Larea to make it 3-1 in favor of TFC, and that's the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 23 shots compared to 3 that the Portland Timbers has in this one, 12 shots on goal compared to 2 that the Timbers had. I mean, it was a shooting gallery in front of Ivicic goal, and I gotta feel very sorry for him, because he was completely hung out to dry by this Timbers defense that had no answer to deal with this very powerful TFC attack. 5 shots off target for the 1 that the Timbers had. No shots that was blocked for the 6 that Toronto has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that the Portland Timbers had in this game. And by the way, that unbeaten run that the Timbers had, which was at 9 games, that is now comes to an end, and it has to be frustrating because, you know, despite they've gone on this really good long unbeaten run, they haven't really made up that many spots in terms of going up in the standings. I mean, in some way they are still in it, and they're still in whisker away to even get all the way up to 3rd place in the West. But, you know, these last couple of games where they have drawn a lot of game, and they have dropped a lot of points, even in times when they were in winning position, that could come back to haunt the Timbers. So yeah, we'll see if they can move on from it. But for TFC, they're making that late push. They're making that Seattle Sounder-esque kind of second half resurgence, and it could be a case that they could do so, because, you know, this attack right now, it is just so deadly. Like, I argue, you know, I can't wait if TFC does get get a chance to play against LAFC, which I don't know if they do get a chance to play against each other, because I want to see that kind of matchup. I mean, imagine Gareth Bale and also Chicho Arango and also all these LAFC attackers face against the likes of Insigne and Benedeschi. I mean, that would be... I wouldn't be surprised that game could end like 4-5 or 5-4. It could be like an El Tráfico kind of scoreline because, you know, between them and LAFC, they probably have right now the most lethal and most informed attack in the league right now. But that being said, moving on in the next match is Miami and NYCFC. So, finally, Miami got their first ever win against NYCFC, and they kind of had to come from behind in this one, and in some way they were kind of gifted 3 points for NYCFC, and I'll tell you why in just a bit. But early on, Magno should have scored and gave NYCFC a 1-0 lead. Like, he went through on goal and trying to round the keeper, but somehow he basically hits that one into the side netting. So that was kind of very similar to the moment that Carlos Gil I mentioned earlier with a casual miss as he was trying to slot it home into the empty net. But this one is even worse because it basically didn't even hit the post and just missed it completely. And I also thought that shot kind of sums up NYCFC attack since Tati left. I mean, this attack has just been so poor in these last couple of games, and it's the nightmare that NYCFC fan we're hoping that it won't be a reality, because, you know, we know that Tati Castellanos has been heart and soul to this attack, but, you know, NYCFC fans were hoping that maybe once he left, this team will still be lethal on the attack, and that has just not been the case. And also, I think a lot has to do with some of these attackers, some of these talented young players for this NYCFC team. They're underachieving very badly, and Talles Magno is definitely one of those one. Though in the 10th minute, Johnson did head to deny Taylor from long range before Rodriguez actually struck the post in the near post in the 28th minute. But in the 33rd minute, NYCFC takes the lead. And I talk about Talles Magno kind of having an underachieving season. Well, he probably might have heard me saying that. Well, actually, he probably wouldn't have heard it because he scored here a couple about a day after what I say. You know what I mean by that. Anyway, he scored here for Chanot and Morales to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. It didn't last long, though, because in the 39th minute, it's Pozuelo scoring from Duke to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and that's his first Miami goal. That is Alejandro Pozuelo, and you knew it was coming because Pozuelo, I feel like he has really started to kind of look like the Alejandro Pozuelo that we remember during his days with TFC and doing that MVP season in 2020, and that has to be great news for Inter Miami with the way that, you know, when they of course get him, not only they got him for a cheap, and I thought it was an absolute bargain, but now they're starting to seeing that, you know, Pozuelo is starting to get himself back into the form that he is, which is known as one of the most lethal number 10 and one of the best number 10 the league has ever produced. But in the 42nd minute, Gibbs tried to give Miami the lead, but he drags that one wide from close range. But there was no doubt the momentum was with Miami, and they were looking to try to score the go-ahead goal before halftime. And in fact, we did have the go-ahead goal before halftime, but unfortunately, it didn't come from the host, as it actually come from the visitor, as NYCFC we retake the lead, and Thiago Andrade scoring from Pereira to retake the lead in this one. Man, I probably shouldn't have said that this attack has kind of underachieved in the a couple of seconds ago talk about reviewing this game, because it feels like these players, guys like Santiago Rodriguez, Talles Magno, and even Thiago Andrade, these guys, you know, have been kind of underachieving this season, and both of them got on the score sheet in this one, as he did here from Pereira to give NYCFC a 2-1 lead. Though you could also argue that probably shouldn't have happened if Miami didn't just clear their lines. Like, how many times we said, when you leave the ball dangling in the box, you are asking to concede, and that's exactly what happened in that play, and we had to halftime with the Pigeons leading 2-1 over Inter Miami. Now in the second half, Callender did deny Almason from close range, as I thought NYCFC again started the better side, and they were looking to try to make it 3-1. I mean, up to that point, you just fancy that NYCFC was going to blow Miami away, because, you know, they have never lost to Miami, and that it seems like they're in a good spot to make it 6 in a row against the host. But Johnson did deny Mota from long range. I mean, it feels like John Mota has been very active from long range. Like, ever since he scored that goal also against the Quakes, he has really fancy himself from outside the box. But in the 64th minute, Miami would tie the game up. It's Ariel Lassiter scoring from Higuain and Pozuelo to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And, you know, I talk about Pozuelo being a big impact. How about Gonzalo Higuain? And what a revival he has been in these last couple of games. He basically have now went from a guy that looked like he is going to potentially leave this Inter Miami team in the offseason to now where this is a big decision for the front office. Like, what do you do? Like, Higuain is out of contract this end of the season, and now he is just absolutely on fire right now. In fact, he came so nearly getting on the score sheet and give Miami the lead for the first time, but Johnson made a big save to rob Higuain on the doorstep of goal, and there was no doubt the momentum was with Miami. And, you know, NYCFC right now, they just had no answer whenever Inter Miami go on the attack. But in the 84th minute, Miami would actually take that 3-2 lead. Remember what I said earlier, that it feels like NYCFC gifted the win for Inter Miami? This was the moment, as this was a horror moment for Alfredo Morales, where I feel like I might as well just kind of put him on the assist chart too, because he literally gifted this right to Pozuelo, and I think maybe he kind of forgot that he was playing for NYCFC and not Inter Miami, because, yeah, I mean, it was a great setup for Pozuelo, but the problem is you're not playing for Inter Miami, you're playing for NYCFC. And that was just a brutal turnover that is, which Pozuelo said, "Thank you very much. I'm going to sit home for my second career Inter Miami goal." And most importantly, the winning goal in this game, as in the end, Inter Miami hang on to win 3-2 in this one. And the shots in this one, 17 shots with the 11 that Inter Miami has, 6 shots on goal for the 5 that NYCFC had, 4 shots off target for the 7 that NYCFC had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Inter Miami has in this game. And, you know, don't look now, but Inter Miami is now back above the red line, and this has now started becoming one of the hottest team, and probably a team that I would say is now becoming the dark horse in the Eastern Conference. Like, this is a team that I think it's been flying under the radar for a bit, and that this team has been racking up points left and right ever since that disastrous start that they have. And I also would like to say that, you know, maybe I think there's going to be a lot of people that will admit that maybe saying Phil Neville probably should be fired a couple of months ago is something that wasn't actually the case, because, you know, this is going to be one of the time where I think he's now proven me wrong, and probably prove a lot of people wrong. The fact that he can actually guide a team to be in such a good form, because, yeah, this really is the first time I think I've seen Inter Miami have played so well like this, and that, you know, this is a team that if they do make it to the playoffs, it not only will be considered a success, but just something that nobody saw it coming because of the turnover that they had, and not to mention the sanction that they're still facing in, at least for this year and also for next season. But for NYCFC, this has to be a huge concern, because right now they have not won a single game ever since Tati Castellanos left. And while the attack was a little bit better in this one, it was not the same case for the defense. Like, the defense completely gone to the wayside, and that shouldn't happen, because for the most time of this season, this NYCFC team has been one of the best defensive team in the league. And whether this is maybe just a rare defensive off night, they have to hope that that's not going to be the case, and that, yeah, I think there's maybe some pressure now that could be on Nick Cushing, because even though I mentioned before, NYCFC has always had this problem where whenever a new head coach comes in, they start off slow, but they need to get going, because as we get into September and get into October, they need to have a similar run that they had last season to really start to get hot before playoffs begin. Otherwise, this team could potentially head to the playoff cold, and next thing you know, we're back into the narrative of NYCFC always exiting in the playoffs, either in the first round or in the second round. But that being said, moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be Austin FC versus Sporting KC. Now, normally in a game like this, where I saw one team just completely implode and one team able to come from behind to get a victory at home, I would just have a lot of praise, and I would say, wow, that is absolutely amazing. But I feel like this was probably one of the most predictable, if not the most predictable implosion that we're going to see probably ever since I started watching this league, because knowing the fact that Austin this season, for whatever reason, they're able to show that tenacity to come from behind every single game at home, and not to mention Sporting KC have just found some of the most impressive way to lose games and always find ways to implode it, as this season has been the case. You just had a feeling that this was going to happen. Like, even when Sporting KC went up 3-1, I don't think Sporting KC fans were that comfortable, and that they're thinking that, yeah, this is just too good to be true, and that you kind of also had a sense that, well, this kind of lines up Austin a chance to come from behind again to get a draw or even get a win, and that's exactly what they did in this one. Though, like I said, it was not a great start for Austin in this one, because after post-game did make a great save to deny Giroussi as he went through on goal, Sporting KC would take the lead, and it's Fontas, the one that gives Sporting KC a 1-0 lead, but that goal probably shouldn't happen if Stuver didn't just build a free kick catch. I mean, Stuver, we mentioned that he also had some shaky moment, especially in the second half of last season. And it feels like it's kind of the case once again. I mean, he's been a little bit better in terms of the second half of the season. But yeah, this was not a great moment for him. Like, he basically just dropped this free kick that was coming in. It wasn't really hit very well. And Fontes basically capitalized. And yeah, that gives Sporting KC a 1-0 lead. And Stuver Nightmare Night would continue in the first half, because just 1 minute later, or actually not 1 minute later, this actually happened in the 22nd minute, but in the 22nd minute, William Agata would make it 2-0 in favor of Sporting KC, and this time, Stuver decided that he was going to try to become like Aja Ivicic, making an awkward kind of kick save like what we saw with Ivicic did for TFC, but only this time, he got it all wrong. Like, he basically kicked that one into his own net. Probably, maybe you could say that it could have been an own goal too, although I think because that one was on target, that's why it wasn't being an own goal. But yeah, you know, he made a kick save here where in some way he didn't need to make a kick save. I mean, it wasn't like he was caught flat-footed and he had to readjust himself. He just simply need to kind of go on the ground and smother that ball, and for whatever reason, he made a kick save even, and trying to be a little bit too cute in terms of pumping it away, and it comes back to haunt him big time. And that, yeah, just like that, Sporting KC were down 2-0, but then in the 28th minute, Gallagher would score to make it 2-1 in this game, and you just kind of have a sense that when that goal went in, maybe, yeah, this is when we're starting to see Los Verdes start to have that come back. But as I said, you know, usually we see these kind of comeback happen in the second half, so I guess maybe at that point that was kind of like a little warning shot that, you know, for Sporting KC, they shouldn't be comfortable with a 2-goal lead, though they do get the 2-goal lead back when there was a penalty that was given to Sporting KC after Finley brought down Tommy in the box. Yeah, that was not a great moment for Ethan Finley. You know, Eric Tommy wasn't even in a great position to shoot that one, and just kind of a rash challenge for Ethan Finley. And just like that a penalty was given to SKC, which Johnny Russell buries that one to make it 3-1 in favor of Austin. And then on the other end, post-game denying Giroussi from long range, and Giroussi trying to replicate what he did against the Red Bull, scoring a long-range goal late in the first half to make this game interesting, but this time it wasn't meant to be. And we head to halftime with Sporting KC leading 3-1 against Austin, and even though you might think that that's kind of a shock score, you just kind of had a feeling that maybe this lead isn't safe yet, because, you know, Austin is a second-half team. You know that they will somehow pull a rabbit out of the hat in the second half and somehow find their way back into the game. Though it didn't happen immediately, because Stuver did head to deny Shaarawy from close range in the 52nd minute before he robbed Agata, who was on goal here. And then I thought Sporting KC was just ripping this Austin team on the break. But it's also a combination of Austin continue to push man forward, trying to get that second goal. And yeah, that didn't really quite work out, because they weren't being very sharp in the attack, and that is a troubling sign, because when you push man forward and you still can't get past the back line and you're leaving yourself exposed at the back, you know, that's when maybe you can had a sense that maybe this might not be the night that Austin will have that crazy comeback. But then in the 62nd minute, really out of nowhere, Cascante would score here to make it 3-2 in favor of Sporting KC. Now, there is a question that maybe this should have been called offside, and I've seen the replay a couple of times, and I'll tell you what, it is very close. Like, it looked like Huson was in an offside position on the development of play, but then again, you know, I think maybe that wasn't clear and obvious. And speaking of clear and obvious, we would also had some controversy late in this game in regards to clear and obvious foul too. But here again, I just think that, I mean, I get why they probably didn't call it, because again, maybe it wasn't clear and obvious. But then again, clear and obvious is just a word, and it could be used in many different ways depending on the crew that is working the VAR game in this one. And I think the crew here thinks that wasn't clear and obvious. So yeah, Austin, we're back into this game, and you just kind of had a sense that, yeah, when that goal went in, you probably know that what Austin is going to do, because I wrote, here comes Los Verdes. They're going to make that crazy comeback like they always do at home. Post-game, did deny Houston, but Austin gets a second attempt, and it was Washington Cardozo, the one that gets a second attempt here, but post-game also make a save, and momentum was all with Austin. Like, Q2 Stadium was rocking. They can sense that they've seen the story before. This team is going to come back to at least get a point out of this game. Though there was some tempers flare after Gabrielson shoved Shawi in the ground before, in the 73rd minute, Isaac Marine almost made it 3-3 in this game and almost scored an own goal from a dangerous ball that was coming for Fagundes. And again, up to that point, you just had a sense that this third goal was going to be inevitable for Austin. And it looked like they had a chance to do so from the spot, as there was a huge shout for a penalty in the 75th minute, as Austin feel like Fontas handballed that one. And by the way, on the Austin feed, Adrian Healy and Michael Lahoud was absolutely livid with this call. Like, they basically went on a rant for these next couple of minutes talking about this call. Now, I do like Adrian Healy, and he is definitely considered one of my favorite main play-by-play commentator, but I really feel like his quality has really been bad ever since he's with Austin, and it feels like, you know, I mean, I get sometimes when you have like national TV broadcaster and national TV play-by-play, they trying to hide their Homer view, and then when they get a chance to really maybe a home broadcast and maybe had that kind of Homer kind of view, that's they of course would show that. But it feels like ever since Adrian Healy had been the main play-by-play commentator for Austin, he has been really Homer with Austin, and has really kind of been very biased toward Austin. And the same goes with Michael Lahoud too, who, you know, I think he hasn't really been one of the best color commentator this season. But here, I mean, this was really at the peak of where these two were very bad in terms of commentating this one, because again, you know, I get that you're basically an Austin TV feed, but you can't just simply go on a rant like this. And especially when you also look at the play itself, I think he got it wrong too, because when you look at it, there was two things I can explain why that wasn't called a handball. One, it looked like that one bounced off of the shoulder, or actually the hips of Fontes, and then it hits his hand. And when that happens, you know, that would be an incredibly harsh to call a penalty. But also, I think the other obvious reason is that it looks like Fontes, you know, they keep mentioning his hand was in an outstretched position. Yes, his hand was kind of in an outstretched position, but then he kind of brought it back, and that's when the ball hits him. And when you do that, I think that shouldn't be a handball, because that feels like now is when he brought it back to his natural position and the ball hits his hand. That means that the ball basically hits his hand in a natural position, but that's not how Adrian Healy and Michael Lahoud saw it. And yeah, again, they went on rant. It was just a spectacular rant that I haven't seen a lot of these. Like, even some of the worst local TV feed that I've seen this season, and I know there are some bad, but that was probably one of the worst rant I've seen, and it was kind of hilarious to see it at time where they really gone off at the referee at that play. But that being said, in the 85th minute, Houston did get that third goal and did tie that up, because again, you know, even though Sporting KC were getting some luck, you just feel like eventually that third goal is inevitable. And it was in this place, as Danny Houston scoring from Felipe to tie the game up at 3 apiece. I mean, Danny Houston has really been big coming off the bench for Austin FC, which wouldn't be a big surprise, because, I mean, that's kind of the case with every single San Jose Earthquakes former players, where every time when a Quakes former player play for a team that is good, they turns out to be a superstar, and that's kind of the case with Danny Houston now. But in the 90th minute, we did had a very sad situation where Agata had to be be hobbled off. And the stretcher actually kind of came out for this one, and they actually didn't card him off because of it, because Agata was hobbling off. But when you kind of saw how he hobbled it off, yeah, I'm afraid it could be the A injury. And you probably know what the A injury is an injury that instantly ends your season, and that has to be a huge blow if that indeed is the case, because Agata has been a huge impact for this Sporting KC team ever since he was signed during the summer transfer window, and it would be just a massive blow for a guy that looked like he could be a superstar for the Sporting KC team. But in the 4th minute of stoppage time, to make things even worse and just really continue to jam the dagger into Sporting KC heart, Jurusi would make it 4-3 in favor of Austin SC to complete probably the most predictable comeback we will ever seen in this league. And that, of course, is the final score of this one. As the shots in this one, 14 shots apiece for both of these teams. 9 shots on goal compared to 7 that Sporting KC had. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Sporting KC had. 2 shots that was blocked for the 5 that Sporting KC had. And possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And yeah, you know, this is a game that, again, you know, I'm going to reiterate what I said about Austin in my preview. They can't simply keep doing this. Like, yes, it was a great win for them, and that they once again showed their resilience, which is something you definitely want to carry that in the playoffs. But they can't just keep doing this where they start off slow at home and fall behind, because in the playoffs, as I mentioned, it's a different animal. Teams are able to at times hang on to leads in the playoffs, and you just simply cannot start slow, because you know it could be harder for you to eventually get back into game. And you know, for Austin cases, they simply need to figure out how not to get off to a slow start, because again, I don't think throughout the history of MLS, I don't think a lot of teams that have played this kind of style and are able to go far in the playoffs. And there's a reason why, because you can't simply just keep coming behind in the playoffs like sometimes you do in the regular season, especially when you play against a better opponent. And in this case, I think Austin was probably maybe a little fortunate that we knew that Sporting KC was going to implode with just the way how their season has gone this year. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next game, after I spent a lot of time talking about this crazy game, is Colorado versus the Columbus Crew. So this game, of course, ended in a 1-1 draw, though in many ways, you know, I think neither of these teams will be happy coming out of this one. Well, I would say maybe Columbus will be slightly happier coming out of this game, because, you know, anytime we get a draw, it's a good point on the road. But you kind of sense that they would feel like they could have got all 3 points, especially. For the most part of this game, they were actually the better team. Now, early on, they actually did take the lead 5 minutes in, as Cucho would score from Santos to give the Crew a 1-0 lead. So for the second consecutive game, Colorado giving up an early goal in a game at home. But unlike in the last game against the Loons, where they were kind of bailed out because Dane Sinclair decided that he was going to have his worst game in his career, that was not so much in this one, because instead of the Rapids looking to get one back immediately, the Crew almost made it 2-0 as Cucho tried to go for his second goal, but instead he basically got it all wrong and blasted that one even as close to the Rocky Mountain of how high that ball was up in the air, and missed wildly there. But Yarbrough then denied Zarian from long range, and there was no doubt the Crew were the stronger side up to that point as they were pressing for the second goal. Rubio then had the Rapids' first shot, but it was denied by Room. But then in the 23rd minute, it looked like the Rapids equalized as Zardes puts it into the back of the net. The only problem is he was in an offside position, so the goal, of course, was disallowed because of that. But there was no doubt that I thought Colorado finally got into this game after just a slow start to this one in the first 20 minutes. And in the 39th minute, they were rewarded by that when a penalty was given to Columbus after Maria handball that one in the box, which Rubio was able to put that one away. And the game, of course, was tied up at 1 apiece. Santos tried to respond quickly for the Rapids, or not the Rapids, but for Columbus up to that point. But he blasted that one high as we head to halftime, tied at 1 apiece. In the second half, yeah, the first 20 minutes, let's not talk about that because it was an absolute snooze fest. Nicholson then puts one right to Room, as that was the first chance in the second half, and it took 24 minutes for that to happen. Cucho then struck one straight to Yarbrough before Yarbrough did deny Etienne from close range. Mensah then had had a good chance from the header from the corner, but he puts that one wide, and all of a sudden, look like the Crew, they were looking like the one that were looking to get all 3 points. Again, you know, they were the better team for most part of this game, and they were looking to trying to get the lead again and trying to continue what has been a very impressive road form these last couple of games. Santos had a chance to get all 3 points late, but he blasted that one wide from long range, and in the end, it ends in a 1-1 draw in this one, as the shots in this one, 12 shots compared to 14 that the Crew has, 5 shots on goal for the 3 that Colorado has, 4 shots off target for the 6 that the Rapids had, 3 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Crew has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession. And again, even though, you know, whenever you're the road team and you get a point out of the game and you'll be satisfied, again, judging how the Crew play in this one, I feel like they would feel like they deserve all 3 points. But for the Colorado Rapids, they just simply cannot drop these home points. Like, we know that they're not a good team on the road, and I know the Crew is a very good team, especially in these last month or two, but you just cannot drop points at home when you do have to try to get yourself above the red line. And now, you know, for the Rapids, they're hoping that other team around them also drop points, which for the most part, some of those teams around them have been dropping points, but, you know, we know that this is a team that don't win on the road again, and that the home games are the one that they have to get maximum points from now on if they want to have any shots of making the playoffs. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards one more time and look at the last 4 games that happened in terms of match week number 25 in terms of the Saturday night action. So moving on, in terms of the next match, is FC Dallas and the San Jose Earthquakes, and FC Dallas have finally ended the curse of them not able to beat the Quakes. Remember, it's been a long time since Dallas was able to get a win against the Quakes. 2016 was the last time that has happened. And not only the fact that they ended the curse, but they annihilated the Quakes in this one. In fact, this game, I basically stopped paying attention as soon as that 4th goal went. Well, I did kind of pay a little bit of attention, but I kind of just started focus on other games because there was no point of watching a game that was already a blown out, and it's kind of not worth my time in terms of watching the Quakes put up a very classic Quakes performance of their days when they are always been the regularly as a basement dweller in the Western Conference. So in the first half, and just 1 minute into the game, Dallas almost got the opening goal. Velasco went through on goal, but he blasted that one high from long range. But not long after, Jesus Ferreira would get on the score sheet as he scored from Velasco to give Dallas a 1-0 lead. And guess what? It comes off a terrible turnover from the Quakes, which, again, I mean, that's expected nowadays because this Quakes defense is by far the worst defensive team in the league. I mean, if you are a team that struggled to score goals, the Quakes basically just solved all your problem, and that it is just way too easy for Dallas to, of course, able to capitalize on that. And to make matters worse, just 17 minutes later, it'll be 2-0 in favor of FC Dallas. And guess who actually scored the goal? It's Marco Farfan, finally scoring his first career MLS goal after 6 years in the league, as he scored here from Legit to make it 2-0 in favor of Dallas. Now, I was actually kind of shocked that was Farfan's first goal, because I swear, during his time when he was with the Portland Timbers and then his short stint with LAFC, he must have at least scored 1 goal. Like, I was kind of in a little bit of a disbelief when they mentioned that was actually his first career MLS goal, but nevertheless, it gives him or give Dallas a 2-0 lead, though. You can also maybe thank JT Marcinkowski for that, and this has also been the problem. But besides talk about numerous times the defense that has let down this Quakes team, same goes with JT Marcinkowski. And while, as I said, JT Marcinkowski, there's times that he can make an incredible save to keep this team in. There's also time he does that, where that was a shot that you know, Farfan didn't even hit that hard, and Marcinkowski just didn't push that one away. And another example of why, I mean, you know, besides the back line that the Quakes, of course, needs to invest, maybe they need to invest in a goalkeeper, because, you know, I don't want to say I'm starting to lose faith with JT Marcinkowski, but I kind of am, because of the way that I've seen this before, where, you know, he's started to become a little bit inconsistent, and that really, I think that's kind of also the story for the Quakes, where ever since David Bingham left this team, there has not really been a great goalkeeper that has played for the San Jose Earthquakes team. And, you know, we thought that JT Marcinkowski was going to be one when he came up, and he shown a lot of promise. But this last year or so, he just have not had a great year whatsoever. And that, again, that might be a department that the Quakes might also quietly look into it. The Jet then blasted high in the 28th minute, and it looked like the Quakes are not bothering to show up this one. Like, there was zero defending, no attacking fruition, and overall, this, again, just really reminds me of those Quakes performance back in 2018, where, you know, every single game they just lose, and they just don't want to be there whatsoever. Marcinkowski then denied Velasco from close range in the back post, but then in the 42nd minute, it'll be 3-0 in favor of FC Dallas, as Ferreira would make it 3-0 in favor of the host. And again, no defending whatsoever from the Quakes, which shouldn't shock anybody. And we do head to halftime with Dallas with a commanding 3-0 lead. Now, in the 51st minute, Paz did deny Ibobasi from long range, and it took 51 minutes for the Quakes to kind of finally show some life. But that life quickly came to an end, because in the 57th minute, Velasco would score from the Jet to make it 4-0 in favor of Dallas. And while this was a great goal for Dallas, and I will tip my hat off to Alan Velasco scoring a golazo, and that I could say that maybe the closing down wasn't good enough, but that just kind of sums up the Quakes night. Though they do get one back in the 60th minute, as Jeremy Ibobasi decided that, you know, if you can't do it, I can do it to Alan Velasco, because he also scored a golazo of really the only positive thing that I can talk about the Quakes in this game, because like I said, I pretty much just almost checked out in this game. I was keeping a track of this one, and also this one, because of how this game was far out of reach. But yeah, that made it 4-1. Ibobasi trying to make it get 4-2, but he heads that one high before O'Brien went through on goal, but he was denied by Marcinkowski, as Dallas was trying to make it 5-1. But yeah, in the end, Dallas with a 4-1 win in this game. Shots in this one, 10 shots apiece, 6 shots on goal for the 2 that the Quakes had, 3 shots off target for the 4 that Dallas had, no shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Quakes had. And possession-wise, the Quakes had the better possession, 63% possession compared to 37% possession. But overall, this was all FC Dallas in this game. And, you know, for the Quakes, there's really not much I have to say. I mean, this team is clearly in CU 2023 mode, and that, yeah, these next couple of months, I mean, I know the next game that they're going to be playing, I think they're playing against LAFC, and I won't be surprised PayPal Park might be kind of almost full, but that's because you probably know who's going to be occupying most of those seats at PayPal Park. But I think for the rest of the season, I won't be surprised nobody really want to care about this team, because, I mean, this team is pretty much done. Like, this team is so done in a way where we're just now thinking about how in the world are we going to pull out of this mess, and how you know, everything that I thought could particularly go wrong. And again, I predicted that this was going to be a disaster, even though I want for them for once to prove me wrong. But as it is the case for every single season for the Quakes, they somehow prove me right by being pessimistic, and that, again, it just that frustrates me once again, to a point where, again, I really just almost lost interest this season with the Quakes, where it doesn't really matter because nothing's going to change. I mean, they can win against LAFC in the next game, and I wouldn't even care, because there's no way they're making the playoffs, and there's just it's just a complete lost season for them right now. But that being said, moving on, in terms of the next match is going to be Houston versus Montreal. So speaking of a team that seems like they're in CU 2023 mode, that's the case for the Houston Dynamo. Though I will say that they did play hard in this game against Montreal, but in the end, Montreal was just too strong in terms of this game, and who is, of course, the favorite, and they were able to pull off a 3-2 win. Though they kind of got off to a slow start, because 11 minutes in, Seba Ferreira would score from Herrera to make it 1-0 in favor of Dynamos. I mean, if you say that fast enough, it's just going to become a tongue twister, and don't try not to do that, of course, at home, because, I mean, if I do it will be confusing and stuff. But at the same time, what a world-class ball that was from Hector Herrera. Like, he basically put this one on a plate from Ferreira, and yeah, Ferreira puts that one in to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. The lead would be short-lived, though, because a penalty was given to Montreal as Clark brought down Mihajlovic in the box, which Kyoto was able to put that one away. By the way, this is the first time that Kyoto is playing against the Houston Dynamo at PNC Park and against his old team. And I was always wondering, is he going to celebrate in front of the fans that they used to celebrate him scoring goal for the Dynamo? And the answer is yes. Yeah, he didn't care. He definitely want to let the Dynamo fans hear about, and certainly the Dynamo too, for letting him go. And that, again, from what happened back when Kyoto was let go of the Houston Dynamo, I feel like in the end it was the right move, because he wasn't really doing that well for the Dynamo, and he needs a change of scenery. But at the same time, maybe Kyoto had some bad feelings with the Dynamo, and he didn't really care if he was going to celebrate against his old team. In fact, he kind of enjoyed it when he is facing against his whole team. Though, that being said, in the 28th minute, Montreal would turn this game on its head, as Alistair Johnston would score from Piet to make it 2-1 in favor of Montreal. And you know, if Johnston score a goal, it's going to be a banger, and it was a great goal by him from outside the box, and also a very unusual kind of goal scoring and assist chart. Doesn't see a lot of time a fullback and a defensive midfielder would be on the goal scoring and assist tally, but that's what happened in this play. Pentimus then denied Quintero from close range before he had an unconventional kick save to deny Quintero. Again, what is it with goalkeeper making kick save this week? Like, why can, like, some of these saves where I just don't think you need to use your feet to save it. You can just use your hands to kind of palm that one way. Though I will say that this was one that, you know, Pantemis kind of had to readjust himself, and he kind of, again, made an unconventional kick save to have to do. I don't think he would have palmed that one away, but still, it's kind of interesting that we had a lot of very awkward kind of kick save, and one of them actually ends up to be gone into the back of net, even though the goalkeeper doesn't need to do so, and you probably know who I'm talking about. But after that kick save, I thought the Dynamo was really pushing to get the equalizer for the second time. And, well, actually, not for the second time. They were actually now pushing to get an equalizer, because they actually took the lead in this one. And they did get the equalizer, as in the 36th minute, again, you know, this was a good night, at least for defenders scoring, as Steris would get on the score sheet. I mean, this is the first time I think Steris has gone on the score sheet in what has been forever, because I think the last time he scored in an MLS game was probably with the Galaxy, because I don't recall him scoring a goal for the Dynamo. But he scored here from Rodriguez and Quintero to tie the game up at 2 apiece, and you just kind of had a sense that there's some serious MLS After Dark energy in this one. Like, both of these teams was going at it. The defense was just a no-show from the Houston Heat. Clark then denied Mihailovic from close range before a penalty was given to Montreal, as Rodriguez handballed that one in the box. Now, this was a bit controversial, because they did go to VAR to see whether or not it should be overturned after it was originally called a handball, and I thought they were going to overturn it, because when you look on the replay, it looked like Rodriguez, when he was falling down the ground, that ball might have hit his knees, then hit his hand, and I think that would have been incredibly harsh if they were going to call that a penalty, and I thought maybe that has enough evidence to overturn it. Well, turns out that was not the case, or at least that's not what VAR think, because they of course decided to make the call stand, and it's still a PK for for Montreal. And this almost said Montreal Impact. I spent a long time now saying the Montreal Impact, but I mean, deep in heart, it is still, I know for Montreal fans, they will still say that they are the Montreal Impact instead of Club de Foot Montreal. But it does give a penalty for Montreal, but Kyoto basically sent that one over from the spot, and I immediately wrote ball don't lie. I mean, you knew that after just kind of very controversial penalty, you knew the soccer gods was not going to have it. And yeah, I guess maybe justice was made in this place. Though, that being said, yeah, Romeo Kyoto, he would not want to look back after just such a horror penalty he has made. And maybe I would say that you may maybe use the excuse of the fact that maybe some of the Dynamo fans were trying to heckling and talk about how he betrayed the team, and that maybe that of course worked out, but still, that was not a great penalty. Though, again, a little maybe justice coming from the soccer gods and the MLS gods, of the fact that, yeah, that was a very soft penalty, and now you're basically paid to not, of course, convert it. So we stay at 2-2 heading into the second half, and in the second half, it was almost 3-2 for Houston when Sabafer struck the post from close range. But then in the 68th minute, it was 3-2, but it was in favor of Montreal, as Lassi Lapanainen scored only his second goal this season from Joaquin Torres to make it 3-2 in favor of Montreal, and that would be the final score of this game because there wasn't really much that happened in the last 22 minutes of this game. Well, there was a couple of chances for Montreal, but that was pretty much it, as Montreal gets a big 3-2 win against the Dynamo. And the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 7 that Houston had, 7 shots on goal for the 4 that Houston has, 5 shots off target for the 2 that the Dynamo has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 3 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 51% possession compared to 49% possession that Montreal has in this game. And while it wasn't easy, Montreal eventually does get the 3 points that they always looked like they were going to do so, and also continue this very strong home form that Wilfried Nancy team seems to be enjoying this season. But that being said, moving on, in the next match is the Galaxy and the Vancouver Whitecaps, and boy do the Galaxy needed this win. I mean, as I mentioned, they are going through a free fall right now. They desperately needed a big win, and they got that exactly with a 5-2 win against the Vancouver Whitecaps. And I think between this game and also the performance that they had against Montreal on the 4th of July, those are probably the best performance I've seen the LA Galaxy has had so far this season. Now, in the first half, and early on, it was actually the Whitecaps had the early chance as Gresso was wide open in the back post, but he took a swing and a miss, and that would be one that he would definitely want to have back. But in the 10th minute, Cropper did rob Edwards in the back post, but eventually the Galaxy does get the opening goal in the 12th minute, as Samuel Grindsir would score from Cabral and Araujo to make it 1-0 in favor of the Galaxy. It would be a big night for Samuel Grindsir that desperately need to get going after just another very underwhelming season for the Galaxy. But a little bit later, there was a penalty that was given to the Galaxy after VAR deemed that Veselinovic handballed that one in the box. That this time, this is the right call because you can clearly see Veselinovic touch this ball on an unnatural position, which the Galaxy, of course, as I said, they were awarded the penalty. Chicharito took it, and he kind of did a little ice cold cheeky Panenka there, but it works perfectly fine. And yeah, the Galaxy were up 2-0 in this one. It was a dream start for them that, you know, it feels like this game was a must-win for them with all the things that has gone wrong for the team in the last couple of games. Then Koulibaly had a free header that just missed wide, but in the 31st minute, it'll be 3-0 in favor of the Galaxy, as Victor Vasquez would get on the score sheet from Chicharito to make it 3-0 in favor of the Galaxy. Well, the rare time that Chicharito actually gets on the assist chart, because he doesn't get on the assist chart very often. But then in the 38th minute, the Whitecaps would get one back. It's Ryan Gull scoring from Cropper to make it 3-1 in favor of the Galaxy. And anytime when you have a goalkeeper that gets on the assist chart, you know it's probably coming from a Route 1 ball, and indeed it was. I mean, yeah, this was not great defending from the Galaxy. And probably classic Galaxy defending, where just a simple Route 1 ball, Gull basically went through on goal, and next thing you know, it's 3-1 in favor of the Galaxy. But the good news for the Galaxy, they quickly restored that free goal lead. And again, Samuel Grindsir, he was a man on a mission tonight, as he scored here from Araujo and Delgado to make it 4-1 against the Vancouver Whitecaps after only one half of soccer being played. So in the second half, I thought the game kind of really started to become a little bit slow paced. And again, anytime when you have that big of a scoreline heading into the first half, you know probably the second half is going to be relatively boring, because it feels like both teams were kind of realized that, yeah, you know, for the Galaxy, it feels like unless if they do a Sporting KC implosion, they're probably going to win this one, and the Whitecaps are probably looking down and out with them losing 4-1. Though there was some life in the 70th minute when Tosan Ricketts scoring from Dahome to make it 4-2 in favor of the Galaxy. And then while the Whitecaps were trying to quickly restart it, the Galaxy were not having it. I mean, they were doing the typical, when you of course give up a goal, you're trying to hold on to the ball as long as possible, so you can basically waste some time and maybe stop the momentum of a team potentially getting that third goal. And while I know that could be a very frustrating thing to do if you're a fan of a team that got a goal back and you want to quickly restart it, or if you're a player of that, it happens every time. I mean, you know, and it just got a little bit too chippy. And in many ways, I think the Whitecaps probably shouldn't have made it chippy, because they just kind of wasted more time now because of them trying to be very chippy and just kind of get frustrated because they couldn't get the ball back to the center circle for a quick restart. Though, that being said, that hope of maybe getting a late comeback was all gone, as Dahomey would get his second yellow card. And by the way, I think this is the only red card that we've seen in this week, and it's been a while since I talked about red cards, because red cards has started to be coming down in these last couple of games. I mean, I remember there was one week where there was like red cards in almost every single game. That wasn't the case. I mean, this is the only game that there was a red card, and I know certainly in the last game we didn't have any red card that was shown. But in the 89th minute, Alvarez would make sure that this game was all done, as he scored what would be number 5 for the Galaxy from Joveljic and Aguirre to make it 5-2 in favor of the Galaxy. There was some late fury of chances, as Ricketts puts it high on the header before Joveljic tried to join the goal-scoring party, but he puts one right to Cropper. Well, he actually was denied by Cropper there. Then Bond also make a good save to deny goal on the free kick, and then he make another great save, this time denying Ricketts from point-blank effort. And yeah, in the end, the Galaxy with a much-needed 5-2 win against the Whitecaps. And the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 11 that the Whitecaps had, 7 shots on goal for the 4 that the Whitecaps had, 4 shots off target to 2 that the Galaxy had, 4 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Vancouver has, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Whitecaps has in this game. And let's see if this is going to be a win that can propel the Galaxy, because we said that when they won 4-0 against Montreal, and yeah, it did not propel them. And Galaxy fans are hoping that this is going to be different, because yeah, you know, even as bad as things has gone, and I think they're still below the red line as we speak. Of course, I didn't check the standings before I did this review, but you know, no, they do have a couple of game in hand over the team up top, and that yeah, at least they're well and truly still in the fight, despite the fact that it's been a miserable last couple of games for this Galaxy team. But that being said, moving on into the next match, and actually the last match in terms of this long review. And if you're still watching this review, thank you for your support, because I know it takes time to talk about all the crazy things that happened this match week. But the last game that I'm going to talk about is the other LA team, which is definitely having a much better life than their Carson counterpart, because in this game against Charlotte, well, I will say for Charlotte, they tried for 45 minutes. They really tried their best to shut down this LAFC team, but you know the old saying, the quality sometimes could be just too strong for the opposition, and that in this case, you just feel like if LAFC can get one against this very Charlotte kind of bunker kind of defense, the floodgates is going to open, and indeed it did in the second half. Now, in the first half, Affle did blast one high on the volley before Crépeau denying Reina from long range. And again, I thought LAFC was kind of off to their usual slow start, despite they had most of the possession. Rodriguez then blasted wide from close range before Murillo heads it wide from the corner. But for the most part, these weren't grade A chances, and I thought Charlotte did a good job in terms of keeping those grade A chances away from LAFC. Though Kalina did had to come up with a save in the 29th minute, as he denied Rodriguez from close range. But even then, as we get near the end of the first half, I didn't think LAFC was really threatening in the final third. They just kind of look a little bit stepped off. And though I will also say that, again, credit has to do with Charlotte defense. They were trying really hard to hold it down as long as possible. But like I said, as we head into the second half of this game at scoreless, if LAFC can find that first goal, oh boy, that's when the floodgates could open. And they did find that opening goal in the 49th minute, as Jesus Murillo would score from Palacio to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. So you know, the two guys that of course, one of them was an MLS All-Star this season. One of them, of course, was playing the All-Star game in 2021, getting on the assist chart. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe when the All-Star game happened in LA back in 2021, I know Murillo, of course, get on the score sheet, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Palacios also got on the assist chart. I might be wrong, though. But anyway, they did score and assist in this play. And then not long after, Cifuentes would get on the score sheet to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC. And then it was almost 3-0 when Blessing went through on goal and trying to bend it into the top right, but he missed that one wide. And I immediately wrote, you fear for Charlotte. Like, this looked like it could get ugly, because LAFC have really hit the extra gear, and they were definitely smelling blood and looked for a third goal. And they did get the third goal in the 73rd minute. And who else but the captain, Carlos Velas, who scored in the All-Star game, scoring here against Charlotte as he scored from Fuentes to make it 3-0. Not long after, you know Chicho Arango has to get on the score sheet. Like, there is literally no game, no LAFC game that I remember in doing this winning streak that Chicho Arango doesn't get on the score sheet. And he gets on the score sheet here from Escobar to make it 4-0 in favor of LAFC. The floodgates was truly open. I mean, it was blown open in this one. But LAFC were not done, because Opoku with them fires it high in the 79th minute. They were showing no mercy right now. Like, they want to score goals. They want to entertaining the 22,000. So that was at Bank of California Stadium. Blessing then trying to make it 5-0, but he roofed one into the net before Arango looked to try to score his second goal, and probably should have done so because of the form that he's been. And he actually tried to chip Kalina, but that chip went wide. Crépeau then robbed Świdecki on a rare Charlotte chance, and that was a big save for Maxime Crépeau, because yes, I know the game was out of reach, but for Crépeau, he definitely wants to get the clean sheet to get his confidence, and that also isn't an easy save in a way. Not only he denied Świdecki on the doorstep of goal, but when you basically haven't done anything for 45 minutes, it is very hard to immediately just stay focused and make a big save. But credit Maxime Crépeau doing a good job in terms of that. But then in the second minute of stoppage time, it would be 5-0 in favor of LAFC, and it's Anton Walks that unfortunately scored an own goal, because that just basically sums up Charlotte night and Charlotte's second half in this one, where they are just basically got blown completely out of the door, and just once again shows you why this LAFC team is literally the best team right now in the league. Like, this is really starting to look like 2019 all over again, with them potentially winning the Supporters' Shield. And they're just also hoping that they're not going to have a similar ending of what happened in 2019. Because if you remember what happened in 2019, yeah, that was the ending where they got knocked out in the Western Conference Final in the Seattle Sounders. But, you know, we'll get to it when I'm pretty sure LAFC fans, we'll get to the playoffs and see how it goes. But for now, we're just going to enjoy of seeing the team getting a 5-0 victory against Charlotte. And the shots in this one, 25 shots compared to 8 that Charlotte has. 9 shots on goal compared to 2 that Charlotte has. 3 shots off target compared to 13 that LAFC had. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that Charlotte FC has. And I think you can maybe even safely say that LAFC is starting to kind of becoming like Man City. You know how Man City always dominate their opposition in the Premier League? It feels like LAFC has started to do the same thing, because they are just red hot right now. 6 straight wins now in the league. They are running away with well, I wouldn't say they're running away, because Austin did get the win, and that they keep at least some sort of pace with LAFC. But I feel like for LAFC, it's kind of hard to say that they're not going to win the Supporters' Shield this season, because of how well they play right now in these last couple of games. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing, because there is that Supporters' Shield curse that I talked about. But if they can continue to play like the way that they play in this game against Charlotte, I can't imagine how many teams can actually stop them in this league right now. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 12 games. If you guys enjoyed this long review, make sure you guys leave a like and smash the subscribe button. And also, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these 12 games that is going to happen? And remember, if we see 7 goals that is going to be scored in these 2 games on Sunday, we would once again have a new record in terms of the most goals scored in a single match week. I mean, it's hard to believe that last week, 57 goals. We thought that was an impressive feat, but 51 was scored in this week or on this Saturday alone. And there's even 2 more games to go, and that, yeah, I mean, it's crazy how the goal scoring is still this high, and really at an all-time high, despite the fact that you would think that as we get closer to the playoffs, the goal scoring might be down, because there's a lot more at stake. But no, it doesn't feel like the defense are reacting like that. I mean, eventually I think it's going to happen where maybe the goal scoring could go down, because as we go to crunch time, you know there's going to be teams that aren't just going to play very loosely and just go all attack and no defense every single game. But at least for most teams, it seems like that, of course, is the case, because there's just been some crazy resort that we have seen in MLS, something that we haven't seen a lot lot in this league. For the past 25 match week that we've seen. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.